Hi Amy, it's Brenda. I thought I would do a quick video for you to help you with your cast on. So I've already go ahead and cast on my first 3 stitches, and the first thing you need to do is knit 14 rows of garter stitch. So we're working flat, and that means every row is knitting. So this is the first row and the second row. I think in my email reply to you I was pretty foggy brained and I told you it was a knit a row, purl a row, which is true if you're working in the round, but not if you're working flat, and we're working flat. So that's another one. And I'm working on bigger needles and worsted weight yarn, so hopefully you can see the stitching better than if I just did the smaller stuff. I'm going to a couple more in here just so I can show you what I meant when I was talking about garter ridges. So this isn't going to look as dense knitting as what you're doing, because these are pretty big needles. They're size 10. All right, I'll just throw a couple more in here so you can see where I'm going with this. And I know I haven't done 14 rows yet. So when we're talking about garter ridges, a garter ridge is made up of a purl row and a knit row as seen from the front side of your work. So whether or not you're knitting purls on the reverse side as you would in flat knitting, or the first round is a knit row and a purl row for in the round knitting, when you're looking at the right side, you see ridges right here, this row of bumps. And there's another one up here. I'll bring it up closer so you can see. So this is a purl ridge, that's a purl ridge, I'm sorry, garter ridge. Each one, it takes 2 rows to make one garter ridge. So for ease of counting, you can go 1, 2, 3. I've knit 6 rows. 2 times 3 is 6. That's the simplified way of counting it. So we'll just keep going until we have 7 of those. And that will mean we've worked 14 rows. Okay. If you go a row over, it doesn't matter. You could have 14 garter ridges, you can have 15 garter ridges, you can have 13 garter ridges. It will still turn out okay. So don't worry too much about, do I exactly have 14 rows? All right, so what do I have? I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, okay, so 8 rows. So I would keep going until I have 7 garter ridges, 14 rows. All right, I'm going to work those and I'll come back and show you the next part. So again, for flat knitting, we're knitting all the rows, wrong side, right side, to get a garter ridge. All right, I've just finished working my 14 rows of garter stitch, or 7 garter ridges. And again, the ridges are just an easy way to count the rows. So these are the ridges right here that are popping out, and it'll look more obvious on your knitting. And sometimes you just got to pull it down a little bit to get the rows to stand out, those ridges. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows, okay? And if you happen to have, 7 garter ridges times 2 rows each makes 14 rows. If you happen to have 15 or 16, that's okay. I mean, it's pretty forgiving, right? You want to at least get the 14 rows in there. So we're going to turn it over for our setup row, and we're going to knit 3 because we're knitting across this way. So 1, 2, 3, and I'm reading my directions as I'm doing this. So we want to place a marker, and we're going to turn our work 90 degrees clockwise. So like this. Now we're working across this edge here. And what we need to do is pick up stitches in these garter ridges. So the first thing we have to do is make a yoke. And because we've yowed, we're going to skip this ridge because that counts as a stitch. We're going to go into the next garter ridge, and with my left hand needle I could either pick up the bump here, it's hard to do while on camera, there, or I could pick it up here, whichever is easiest for you. So I'm going to pick it up here, and I'm going to purl, so that's yarn in the front, just a regular little purl stitch. And then I'm going to make another yoke, and I'm going to skip the next garter ridge. We just worked into this one. it's stretched out, so it can be hard to tell where you are. So we just worked that one, we skip this one, and we make a yo, and into the next one, we're going to do a knit front and back. So we're going to use our left needle to find a place to put that stitch. Try not to split it if you can. All right, is it a knit front and back? Oh, a purl front and back, okay. I'm so used to knit front and backs. So again, in position to purl the front of the stitch. Okay, and then we go to the back, and we're going to purl the back of the stitch. This one's really fussy. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right, so you have two purl looking stitches there. Now we're going to make another yo. We skip the next garter ridge, which is right here because we just knit into this one. I'm going to use my left hand needle. Keep our yo in place. Pop this one into here and purl it. Make our last yo. It's very easy to drop the yos on this row. So if you're off by a number, that's probably why. So we're going to do a yo here, and we skip this last garter ridge, almost second to last. Okay, this is our cast on, and this is a garter ridge. We skip this one, we turn the work 90 degrees, and now we need 3 stitches on this end. And I recommend picking them up all at once. So let's get our tail out of the way there. There's 1, there's 2, just get it in there anywhere. 3. Okay, and now we're going to knit these 3 stitches. So we do have a combination of knits and purls on this row. 1, 2, 3. Okay, looks pretty good. So we'll count our stitches to make sure. There should be 3 stitches, a yo, 1 stitch, a yo, 2 stitches, that's our purl front and back, another yo, a purl, a yo, and then 3. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 stitches. That's our setup row. So we turn it over, and notice our tail is in the back here. If that bugs you, or it's in the front of the work. I don't know if you do this, but if you have a locking stitch marker, and of course I don't have one in front of me to show you, I would just take a locking stitch marker and put it on the front here so that I know this is the right side of the work, because it can get confusing when you're working in garter stitch, which is the right and which is the wrong side. So you're now working on the right side, and you're just going to follow the instructions from the first row. And every time you do a knit, yo, knit, it's a 2-stitch increase, and it's made into the yo of the previous row. So I'll do 1 for you. Again, this is now the actual row 1 on the right side. So we do 1, 2, 3 stitches, slip our marker. There's the yarn over. We're going to do a knit, yo, knit. So go in as if to knit, yarn over, go back into the stitch again in the front, and knit. So now we've turned 1 stitch, the yo, into 3 stitches. So we've increased by 2, because 1 plus 2 is 3. And then you just, let's see, follow the pattern. So there's a pattern there to begin the mesh. So I just wanted to demonstrate that for you, the knit, yo, knit into a yarn over. And that happens at either end. And that's how we do our increases on the right side of the work. On the wrong side, it's just going to be a yo. Okay, I hope that helps. If it's at all confusing, shoot me another email, ask me your questions. I'm more than happy to help you out.